arigatou gozaimashita. We are very grateful for your being here, and both Mexico and Malaysia, as you can see, provide exceptional examples of how to build a sustainable tourism sector, not just using the right language, but making sure that every single person in the country has a role to play. Because ultimately, tourism is not necessarily about the tourists. It's the impact that it has around countries. And that is why it is so important that we now shift into the second part of our session, which is the Ministerial Roundtable in collaboration with our dear friends at the UNWTO. Now, I must share with you, I was laughing with Sujing from the UNWTO that I've never seen a roundtable session that actually has a roundtable. Because the danger is that with these sessions, there is such interest that comes from the world that we have so many wonderful speakers on the stage itself. So we have a number of teeny tiny little roundtables, but importantly, we have some excellent speakers. Why do we have this session taking place today? Because as we know, sustainable development in tourism has become an indispensable part of growth of nations, at individual level, at community level, and at national level. Tourism does not work unless it's sustainable. Sustainable economically, culturally, socially, environmentally, and spiritually. Because at the end of the day, we need to make sure that the identities and the spirits of the people of the nation are being developed, nurtured, and strengthened through tourism. This year, 2017, the International Year of Tourism for Sustainable Development, is an incredible honor for all of us, but it's also an incredible responsibility, which is why it is so important that we share. The first ministerial roundtable that's being held in collaboration with the UNWTO, kindly hosted by our dear friends from Japan, has brought together at the Global Tourism Forum a truly global audience of speakers. It is amazing to see that of all of these chairs up here, more than 50% of the people that are going to be joining us on stage are from outside of Asia. And that says a great deal about the power of Japan to bring together the global community at a time when we need to learn together, we need to share together, we need to find solidarity, and we need to celebrate. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I take you into the roundtable, without the roundtable itself. Our discussion is going to focus on 5 areas: inclusive and sustainable economic growth. Secondly, social inclusiveness, employment, and poverty reduction. Resource efficiency, environmental protection, and climate change. Cultural values, diversity and heritage. And lastly, mutual understanding, peace, and security. Now, we've said for many, many years that tourism is a vehicle for peace. The challenge is that that can become such an idealistic statement. People feel that we have too much ideology in our minds and too much incense burning in our offices. But what we have seen in the last 3 years is that our world is being challenged to separate, whereas we know that we need to connect. We are the only industry in the world, as I said earlier, where complete strangers make an active commitment to going somewhere else in the world, to learn about people they don't know about, to find a common understanding, to find an appreciation of differences. That is what creates peace. Because at the end of the day, no matter where we all are in the world, as the saying goes, we all bleed red, we all hurt, we all have tears, and we can all laugh. We need to make sure that we use tourism to do that together. We're delighted and very grateful to have ministers and secretaries of tourism from 13 countries and 4 top executives from international organizations joining us on stage. May I please ask you lucky individuals to stand up and join me on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, I must say that having the great honor of being here with you all, and I thank our organizers and hosts once again, You have to admit that when we look at this stage and we look at this incredible collection of great minds, it's also a collection of great hearts. It's a collection of great friends. And you have to admit as well, when it comes to the international tourism community, we have some great-looking leaders as well. So we're a very, very blessed sector itself. If we look at it from a purely alphabetic point of view, can I please ask you to stand as I call your name and we show your identity? Firstly, Mr. John O'Sullivan, the Managing Director of Tourism Australia. Sir, we welcome you. His Excellency, Mr. Chantatits, the Vice Minister of Tourism of the Kingdom of Cambodia. Sir, welcome. Her Excellency, Dr. Adia Ragad, Deputy Minister of Tourism of the Arab Republic of Egypt. Welcome, Madam. Shukran. Mr. Christian Mantle, General Manager of Atout France. Welcome. Mr. Tatsuro Tomita, the Chair, Committee of Tourism, Japan Business Federation, President and CEO of East Japan Railway Company. Sir, arigato. Mr. Akihoto Tamaru, the Commissioner of Japan Tourism Agency. Welcome. Mr. Sarajus Timos Mivas, the Advisor of the Minister of Economy of the Republic of Lithuania. Sir, thank you. A very dear friend who's already warmed his seat, the Honorable Dato Seri Mohammed Nazri bin Abdul Aziz, Minister of Tourism of Malaysia. His Excellency, Mr. Uon Mang, the Union Minister of Hotels and Tourism from Myanmar. Thank you very much for joining us. A much-loved friend from the Americas, Her Excellency Marcela Galupo, I beg your pardon, Minister of National Tourism Secretary, Republic of Paraguay. Madam, welcome. Her Excellency, the beautiful Ms. Wanda Corazon Tati, the Secretary of Tourism, Republic of the Philippines. Madam, welcome. My sister from South Africa, Her Excellency Ms. Thokozile Zasa, the Minister of Tourism of South Africa. How's it, Madam? Her Excellency Ms. Corbon Watanavanga, sorry, I'm going to trip on that, the Minister of Tourism and Sport, Kingdom of Thailand. Madam, forgive me. Mr. Abziz Abduk Amikivov, the Chairman of the State Committee of the Republic of Uzbekistan. Sir, welcome. My dear brother under the blue flag, Mr. Su Jing, Director and Executive Secretary, General Assembly and Executive Council and Regional Director of Asia Pacific UNWTO. Another dear, dear friend, Mr. Gerald Lawless, Chairman of the WTTC. Thank you, sir. And the lovely, lovely Ms. Sarah Matthews, Chairperson of PATA, Pacific Asia Travel Association. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome, please, to all of our lovely speakers this morning. Now, there is one gentleman, ladies and gentlemen, that we need to introduce who unfortunately is not in the room, but he is very much here in spirit. We talk about tourism being a force for good, and he is an individual who, in his own right, is an international force for good and a source of inspiration for us all. As much as he is the beautiful Secretary General of the UNWTO, and he considers that his most important job in the world, his family has a different understanding. Because at this moment, he's back in Madrid, not playing Secretary General, but being the father of the groom, as he has a family wedding taking place. He is very sad not to be here in body, but he is here in spirit, and I invite you to enjoy a message that he has for us all.
My dear friends, on the behalf of the World Tourism Organization, the UNWTO, it's a great, great pleasure for me to address you on the occasion of the Tourism Expo in Japan. We're particularly happy to support the Tourism Expo's first ever ministerial roundtable. I personally would have loved to be there for this occasion, but prior commitments and personal matters didn't allow me. It's the first time I missed this beautiful event, and I truly feel sad about it. My dear friends, this comes at a very important time for travel and tourism sector. Your meeting comes at a very timely occasion. As we mark 2017 as the International Year of Sustainable Tourism for Development and Peace. This year is a unique opportunity for all of us to come together to promote the contribution of this wonderful industry called travel and tourism as a universal and human activity of the 21st century to contribute to building a better world for a better people and a better planet. My dear friends, we truly live in today the age of travel. International tourism arrivals rose from just 25 million in 1950 to 1,235 billion in 2016. And the center of gravity of this era of tourism and travel is fast shifting east towards Asia, particularly Japan, that is playing a huge part in Asian tourism success, both as a destination and as a source market. As a destination, so many travelers are coming to Japan every year because they know they feel good in Japan. They know they'll be very welcomed in Japan. Japan is a very special country. We feel respect to the people, to the culture, to the history, to the environment. Everything that's in Japan is about you feeling good. I'm sure that Japan can continue to be a world leader in tourism for inclusive and sustainable development as well. My dear friends, today's roundtable is about the opportunities of discussions on how to really maximize tourism's contribution to our agenda for 2030, the global agenda, as outlined by the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. Tourism is specifically mentioned in 3 of these SDGs, Goal 8, Goal 12, and Goal 14. Yet, with its global reach and wide impact, tourism can contribute to all 17 development goals. As we celebrate the International Year of Sustainable Tourism Development, this is a very important goal. Let us all reaffirm our commitment to sustainability, to the goal and the roadmap of 2030, to our core business in life, which is to make this world a better place. I wish you an excellent roundtable, and I'm looking forward to hear about the conclusions. I promise you to always be connected to you. And thank you all very much. Thank you.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, with that scene setter from Dr. Rifai, we're now going to get into the actual conversations themselves. What is so important about 2017 is that it's not actually about 2017. We need to make sure that sustainable tourism for development lives on long past 2017. This is our year to share, to exchange, to get understanding. And for that purpose, we have an exceptional panel of speakers who are going to be giving us a sense of, in their context, in their countries, in their organization, not just what are the policies that are in place around sustainable development, what are the principles, and what are the practices? How can we learn from one another to make sure that our industry truly unites long beyond 2017? Now, each of our speakers has been given 3 minutes. They each have 3 minutes to give their point of view. And they've all been lovingly warned that as soon as we go 1 second past 3 minutes, I'm going to start closing in on you. And you will know that 10 seconds in, I'm going to close your microphone. But with that, again, we want to squeeze the most out so that we can gain their incredible wisdom and insight, but also have a conversation afterwards. To start off, sir, I'm going to challenge you first. To begin, may I please ask Mr. Akihiko Tamura, the Commissioner of Japan Tourism Agency, to please share. We welcome you.
Good morning, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Japan and welcome to our Tourism Expo Japan. Well, today I provided a draft in Japanese, and I heard that very capable or simultaneous interpreters are standing by, so I let them work, and Channel 2 will provide the English.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this ministerial roundtable at Tourism Expo Japan being held in such a grand manner, I'd like to congratulate on this occasion. What each country is doing is going to be exchanged. This is a valuable opportunity for us to exchange, and this will be very useful for us to design future tourism policies. Tourism involves exchanges of human beings, thus enrich the livelihood of people in terms of economy as well. Relevant industries will be vitalized through tourism. On the other hand, protecting environment and nature and retaining traditions, we have to have sustainable development for development. The local citizens and tourists both need to enjoy this opportunity. This must be win-win relationship so that the tourism itself will be sustainable as we try to provide tourist services. There will be increasing demand for tourism on a global scale. So global sustainability in tourism is called upon. In 2015, UNWTO issued the resolution on International Year of Sustainable Development, Sustainable Tourism for Development. We would like to take this as an opportunity so that Japan can further cooperate with UNWTO to organize international conferences in different local communities so that we can share best practices on sustainable tourism. As one of the Executive Council member of UNWTO, we would like to do the best possible promotion for better understanding of sustainable tourism. Japan included tourism as major part of its growth strategy because we believe it is attributable to revitalization of local economy. It's not just quantity. It is important to see improvement in quality as well. There are 5 important areas which were already introduced. We have to ensure sustainability, paying attention to those 5 important areas as we develop tourism. Already some local communities are feeling stressed due to excessive number of tourists visiting the community. So once again, we have to return back to sustainability of tourism. We are promoting not only inbound travel, but also domestic and outbound tourism so that we would like to produce and promote interactive tourist exchanges. Again, our intention is to continue to work with all the other countries for sustainable tourism. Thank you.
Gato.
Thank you very much.
Colleagues from Japan that are going to be opening up this initial session is that, as per usual with the beautiful Japanese, you were exactly 3 minutes. So I thank you very much, and everyone else is challenged to stick to that. May I please ask to take on the 3-minute challenge Mr. Tetsuro Tomita, the chair of the Tourism Committee of the Japan Business Foundation. Sir.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I am the president and CEO of East Japan Railway Company, JR East. I would like to speak in Japanese.
Receiver.
And I would like to be seated as I present my 3 minutes. First of all, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Japan. And I work in a railway company. I serve as the president and CEO of East Japan Railway Company. And during your stay in Japan, I hope that you will experience the railway system in Japan to experience the comfort and the safety of the train system in Japan. And as was just mentioned by Mr. Tamura, actually working with Mr. Tamura's agency, we are actually promoting tourism industry as a growth industry as we expect an aging society. And hopefully we can make this into a very core industry going forward. And we're making our utmost effort. And as a train system operator, such a private public sector collaboration is very important. In that framework, we're doing our utmost. Now, there are several examples of our activities at the railway company. I'd like to share with you some. JR, Japan Railways, there are group companies or JR companies, and destination campaign has been conducted since over 10 years ago. And we're collaborating with destination communities to really identify some of the hidden sources of tourism so that it can be presentable to the rest of the world, so that there can be additional or new exchanges, receiving tourists from around the world, so that we can generate more jobs for the people. Therefore, for the past 4 decades, for specific prefectures around Japan, we have been conducting this destination campaign. And after the earthquake in 2011, for 6 consecutive years, we have been focusing on the Tohoku region that were the most hit as the destination, which is the primary focus of the campaign for the past 6 years, so that we can contribute to the reconstruction effort after the earthquake, and we have been successful in doing that. So that's case number 1. And my second case is focusing on local produce of the different parts of Japan, brought over and sold in major markets in Tokyo and others, whether it is fishery, seafood, or dairy products, or other agricultural products. By marketing them in the large cities, we think we can create or generate this exchange of people and goods. And so through such activities, the people living in large cities hopefully can come across the cultures, the traditions, the entertainment, the local industries. They would find them for the first time, and then that would motivate them to travel to those different parts of Japan. And so through such activities, our railway company has been not just providing railway transportation service, but we have been a part of this contribution to revitalize the different localities, and part of that is generating or creating new jobs as well. And we believe that this is a very important aspect, and that is exactly what we're trying to achieve. And through such activities, as Dr. Rifai of UNWTO mentioned in his message, it's important that we provide hospitality and provide comfort that people around the world find pleasing, and we really hope to continue with that impression that people have about the Japanese. And working together with you, we would like to maximize the potential of tourism so that sustainable tourism for development can be nurtured and further developed in Japan. So we ask for your continued support going forward. Thank you very much.
Arigato, sir. Perfect timing. If a railman can't do it in 3 minutes exact in Japan, no one can. I'm going to take someone out of their misery, because a dear colleague of mine is now starting to get very nervous knowing I've got 180 seconds and she is going to cut me off if I hit 181. So, our dear friend, Mr. Su Jing, from your perspective, please.
The Secretary General of UNWTO, as you all know, is one of the best speakers in our circle. So I wonder, after his message in video, how I can be even to this very impossible mission. At one stage, I almost tempted to speak probably in Japanese in order to make the difference. Anita, thank you for giving me the floor, and since this is my first time taking the floor, I thought it is extremely important to express how happy I am to be back in Japan. The world is now zooming into the focus of Japan, and I wanted to thank the organizers of the Tourism Expo Japan, the JATA, the JTTA, the JNTO, as well as JTA, for inviting once again the representative of UNWTO to be part of this very happy celebration. Indeed, it is time for us to celebrate. You heard earlier from the Honorable Minister of Japan that our industry has the reason to take the pride, because you heard about the global figure of roughly 4% growth rate for last year. And that means every single day we have roughly 3 to 4 million international tourists crossing national borders to travel around the world. And that explains why we are able to generate 1 out of every 10 jobs that is created in this world. It attributes to the travel and tourism industry. And we have every reason to celebrate this. But ladies and gentlemen, what is more important, and this is probably my second message to you, is that finally, this year we've been able to catch the attention not only of the tourism industry, but the attention of the international community at large. And that explains why the entire United Nations system is celebrating the International Year of Sustainable Tourism for Development. That explains why 3 goals out of the UN Sustainable Development Goals are extremely directly linked with that of tourism. You heard from my Secretary General, so this explains why we need to celebrate ourselves, that we finally no longer talking only to the converted. We are talking and we are catching the attention of the civil society at large and the whole international community. And I think today, if we come to the topic of the ministerial roundtable, you heard from Anita that growth of tourism must be sustainable. This is where we must make ourselves relevant to the society, to the social and economic development. That growth not only must be sustainable, but must be also socially inclusive, and it must be also linked with our cultural values, with our heritage, and most importantly, with the mutual understanding of peoples, and linking with the good cause of peace. And probably, I hope I'm not running short of time, that we need to take a balanced approach. And that balanced approach explains from the video that you already watched at the very beginning of this roundtable, and that is not only you want to travel, not only you want to enjoy, but most importantly, you want to respect the people, respect the world, and respect yourself. I thank you.
Arigato. Thank you, Sujing. And I must admit, a little secret to share with you all. One of the reasons why Sujing was so excited to come to Japan, in addition to the fact that he absolutely loves being in Japan, is because he has just left Chengdu, as many of you know. Because the UNWTO had their General Assembly. And as Dr. Rifai promised, it was the best General Assembly they've ever had. The chief engineer behind the scenes of the General Assembly was this beautiful man who worked tirelessly. And what's lovely is that his coming here, he knew that he didn't have to organize anything. But I do believe, though, that when he looks out across the hotel, he looks out across the audience, for what he has been focused on for the last 2 years, he's still thinking, but where are the pandas? There's supposed to be pandas out here. So we thank you for being here, for coming back with your energy and giving us your perspective. Another gentleman who joins us around the world and is a true leader of tourism as a force for good from the private sector side, a critical partner in sustainable tourism for development and in global development, is our next speaker, the dear Mr. Gerald Lawless.
Thank you very much. I thought I'd be going at about number 17 or something on this particular round table.
Oh.
Sorry, I thought I'd be going at about number 17 in this particular round table. And I know that as an Irishman, we're not famous for stopping talking after 3 minutes, but I will certainly do my best. As representing the World Travel and Tourism Council, I'm particularly honoured to be here today, to have the opportunity to speak to this esteemed audience and to talk just a little bit for a couple of minutes about the value of travel and tourism and what we within the private sector, what we do and what we believe in as far as travel and tourism is concerned. And I think what a fitting tribute it is to our great friend Dr. Talib Rifai that this year should be the year of sustainable tourism for development. I think it's something that he has worked so hard to achieve and has really brought this to the fore for the future. I find when we go to these events, we always end up, as you said earlier, Sujin, speaking to the converted. We all congratulate ourselves on the benefits of tourism and how great tourism is for society. And yes, we believe in that. But I know that we also have to address what we will all be talking about over the next 3 to 4 days, is how do we cope with our own success, with the fact that 1.2 billion people worldwide are now taking journeys every year, international journeys. And yes, we hope it will grow. And it will grow for the benefit of society, for the benefit of global GDP, and what we can do for people to take them out of poverty, to give them the opportunity to stay in their home communities, to work in small hotels, restaurants, and indeed in everything associated with travel and tourism. But how do we cope with the areas such as Venice, for example, where I read a statistic where in 1950, 155,000 people lived in the city of Venice, local people living there. Today, 50,000 people live in the city of Venice because they've been driven out, they say, by high prices. We've seen the situation in Barcelona not so many weeks ago before the terrible atrocity of terrorism, where a tourism bus was actually attacked and was daubed with paint and with graffiti because people say, we don't want so much tourism. The mayor of Barcelona says that in his election campaign that he actually wants to reduce tourism to Barcelona. And yes, we all look at it and we say, and I'm a hotelier by background, and I know that as demand goes up, our rates go up. We see it in yield management, we see it in the airlines, we see it everywhere. So therefore we know that to a certain extent that tourism will be managed and will be controlled very much due to pricing. Where does that leave all the lovely people who want to travel, who want to experience the rest of the world? And again, just going back to my home country, Ireland, we have seen where Dublin, for example, is very heavily visited at the moment. But the Tourism Ireland introduced a very interesting concept where on the western seaboard of the island of Ireland, if you can imagine it, there's nothing between us and New York. Actually, we say New York is a small village off the coast of Ireland, but we obviously know differently. But they've brought in what they called the Wild Atlantic Way, which is a 2,000-kilometre drive from the north of the country right to the south of the country. And this has cycle tracks, it has small bed and breakfasts, it has small hotels, it has large hotels, but it is an opportunity for people to see more of the country than just the capital city or just the most famous city. And I think that is very important as we try to manage our tourism product on an international basis. Our other big aspect of tourism is a great driver of peace. Last year I went to visit the First Minister of Northern Ireland, who was saying that peace drives tourism. And I said, no, I think tourism drives peace. It brings us together, it gets us to respect each other, it gets us to know each other. And I've seen this in the city where I live in Dubai, where His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the ruler of Dubai, founded the Sheikh Mohammed Center for Cultural Understanding, where every week us hoteliers are invited to take our guests to a local mosque, where these are non-Muslims who receive a lecture from an imam in the mosque. And the imam talks not about the differences of our religions, but actually about the similarities of so many religions, particularly in this case, talking about Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And our guests come out with actually a sense of enrichment, a sense of doing something good on their holiday. Of course, they need to relax and enjoy themselves, but at the same time, they also need to connect with the local community and try to understand it. And this, of course, is very much what we would always say are the benefits for tourism, showing that tourism is indeed a force for good, and we can congratulate ourselves as being part of this. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Lawless. I must say, as many of you saw watching the clock itself, Mr. Lawless was given extra time for two reasons. Firstly, he provided the superb example of if we are going to work together for sustainable tourism, we need to be honest, not just of the opportunities, but of the challenges that exist. Because otherwise, we are actually creating a blind spot, quite hypocritically, in a way that is not going to help us in the long run. Secondly, there is no one like the Irish to be able to deliver a sharp message with the most beautiful lyrical accent, so we can get away with it. But again, I think the important thing is that as someone who is absolutely a hotelier at heart, he's a businessman who knows what the metrics are, and we need to manage those metrics. And so we want to carry out the rest of the conversation really focusing on how can we share the problems to find solutions, not just share the celebrations. Which brings me to my next speaker, who is the lovely chairperson of PATA, an incredible friend of this region and the world when it comes not just to knowledge and insight, but cooperation and helping us all work together. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Sarah Matthews.
Ohayou gozaimasu. I don't speak Japanese. I can only say squashy. If only I could speak better Japanese, so I apologize. I was telling Gerald that my ancestors come from Ireland, so potentially I get more than 3 minutes. I actually want to speak very quickly, because what I'd like to do is yield the time to having a really productive discussion on tangible results that we can take out to businesses. PATA, as many of you know, is a not-for-profit organization based in Asia. Our members are across the Asia Pacific and in fact across the world. There are many core topics that PATA is very focused on, but one of the big issues that we're very focused on is dispersal of travel. So many of us travel to cities, London, Osaka, and what we really want is to discover other places. And that's really important in helping the small business owners get into the game, getting them support in developing their businesses, and most importantly, talking about their stories. Because their stories are what makes up your destination. And so I think that's a really cool focus of the Pacific Asia Travel Association, supporting businesses across Asia Pacific, working with government. I'm going to steal, Kun Kop Khan, the minister's fabulous idea. One of the things I think is really interesting that Thailand's focused on, two key areas, and I'm taking information from you already, but I was so impressed by your decision. One was moving away from measuring arrivals, but measuring economic impact, which is so important. It is about job creation. It's about human capital development in lesser-known destinations. And it's a win-win for all. And the other is the minister's efforts in community-based projects. I was here in July with a group of 50 destinations from around Asia Pacific, and we call it a digital boot camp. We make them work. But what we experienced, for those of you who have never done it, go and visit the Ama diving ladies. This is over 1,000 years old. These are ladies who dive not for tourism, but because that was their livelihood. These ladies in their 80s still do it. But interestingly, it's become a great tourism traveler experience. And I think those are the types of community projects we need to hear more about. We need to support those ladies in their efforts. I'm sure they're very familiar with the latest technology, but perhaps they need a hand. So how can we, as the prefecture in Mie or Ise City, how can we give them those tools? And on that note, I'm going to be short, sharp, and sweet, hopefully, and hand over back to Anita. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Sarah, thank you very, very much. And it's lovely how you brought it back to feeling the heartbeat of the people that are tourism, that the tourists ultimately enjoy. We're now, going to go into theme number 1, which is focusing on social inclusivity, on poverty alleviation. And so ultimately what we want to do is celebrate the countries that are doing it in a way that absolutely makes sure all the people are involved. What we found, however, though, is that part of sustainable tourism is recognizing that countries go through challenges, whether it's Mother Nature, as we've seen, it could be political change, it could be economic change. But ultimately, through tourism, we not just find incredible destinations, we find heroes. And our next speaker is a heroine who comes from a country that ultimately is a place where, as we say, it all begins. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome to the next 3 minutes Dr. Arab Ragab, the Vice Minister of Tourism of the Arab Republic of Egypt. Madam.
Good morning. Good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. It is an honor to be here today in beautiful Tokyo, the twin city of Cairo, amongst this amazing group of tourism enthusiasts and promoters. By the way, how many people here believe that tourism is equal to optimism? I think all of us. You know why? Because tourism provides diverse employment opportunities at all ages and skill levels, improves the life of the local host communities, empowers youth and women, and contributes to the economy with foreign currencies. So it is a motivation for happiness and peace. The world now is focusing on development policies considering the environmental protection, resource efficiency, and cultural heritage preservation to strengthen and create sustainable tourism. I believe in this regard that our Egyptian candidate, Dr. Mushira Khattab, for UNESCO Director General, could be and would be reflecting Egypt's endeavor of enhancing linkages to the heritages and cultural assets and unifying the world efforts addressing the cultural challenges. Moreover, government of Egypt has launched the new Sustainable Development Strategy called Egypt Vision 2030, addressing all sectors with a special emphasis on eco-friendly tourism projects to preserve environment for the next generations. Moreover, Ministry of Tourism has identified areas of special environmental interest and protected them with law and regulations, such replacing at least 20% of traditional energy into renewable ones, and involve local communities as partners to reduce poverty and control immigration. Other programs also have been implemented to raise awareness and public ownership towards resource promoting recognition and knowledge for socio-cultural pride. Social media, through advanced marketing policies, is currently an ideal medium for the promotion of Egypt tourism. In addition, considering tourism as a driver for economic development, the private sector plays a vital role in collaboration with the Ministry of Tourism, the government, to contribute to more inclusive growth, to move up the value chain, and to promote cultural authenticity of destination. To conclude, there are lots of efforts that have been done. However, we are still facing some challenges where I believe that with your support and cooperation as investors and tourists, we will succeed to overcome them and to achieve all our targets. Thank you.
Shukran, madam. Thank you very much. As we all know, sustainable tourism for development is something that we take very seriously. It's something that has become part of our strategies. It's become a part of the DNA of how we operate. But there's one lovely Honorable Secretary of Tourism up here who I think can actually argue that they have a different twist on it in their country. Because as we know from the Honorable Secretary of Tourism of the Philippines, even when it comes to sustainability, it's more fun in the Philippines. Madam.
Thank you, Anita. I'll try to make it 3 minutes. The Philippines is concerned more than ever about inclusive and sustainable economic growth, as well as environmental protection and climate change, two themes that run parallel each other. Being an archipelago of more than 7,100 islands, the Philippines is vulnerable to impact of climate change. The country's wide range of unique flora and fauna is constantly in danger. The country's tourism product portfolio is anchored on nature-based tourism, sun and beach tourism, cruise and nautical tourism, diving and marine sports tourism. Because of this, environmental protection becomes all the more critical and necessary. These resources, after all, are part and parcel of the country's attraction. Upon these beautiful backdrops, the Filipino people deliver a more fun experience for our tourists. Without measures to ensure environmental protection, we cannot ensure the sustainable growth of the tourism industry nor reap its economic benefit. For this reason, the Department of Tourism has undertaken various initiatives. The National Tourism Development Plan, NTDP, for 2017-2020 will serve as the country's blueprint for sustainable tourism. Our vision is to develop a globally competitive, environmentally sustainable, and socially responsible industry which promotes inclusion in growth through the generation of more jobs, which hopefully leads to a better distribution of income. This strategy aims to introduce more cultural offerings and promote environmental preservation, climate change adaptation, and implement risk crisis management program. In 2014, the Philippines hosted the UNWTO ASEAN International Conference on Tourism Climate Change. Senior tourism ministers and industry experts from 18 countries convened in Legazpi, Albay. The conference leaders adopted Legazpi's declaration on tourism response to climate change, which calls upon the UN, the government, and their attached agencies, NGOs, international bodies, and private sector to recognize and promote awareness of tourism's importance in development agenda and its growing contribution to socio-economic change. In the field of culinary tourism, the department has also played host to this year's Madrid Fusion Manila, an international gastronomic congress where the world's top chef shared fresh initiatives leading towards a sustainable gastronomic planet. Riding on 2017 International Year of Sustainable Development, the Philippines hosted the 6th UNWTO International Conference on Tourism Statistics last June 21 to 24, 2017, which focused on measuring sustainable tourism. Conference participants called on the development and implementation of a statistic framework for measuring sustainable tourism, which will impact economic, environmental, and social dimension. Through this initiative, the Philippine Department of Tourism hopes to join the worldwide effort to protect environment and ensure the sustainable of tourism industry. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Madam. One of the challenges of sustainability is that it doesn't just apply to countries that are already strong destinations. It's an even greater focus of countries that have become leading destinations in terms of tourism interest. One of those beautiful destinations, as we all know, is Myanmar, which is open to the world and has become very high on the list of places you must see for travelers. But how do you manage that growth? Exactly as Mr. Lowell has said, how do we make sure we don't become a victim of our own success? It is now my great pleasure to ask and to give 3 minutes to Mr. Un Wong, the Minister of Hotels and Tourism of Myanmar. Sir, the stage is yours.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We say Mingalawa in Myanmar. I would like to extend a warmest welcome to you all on behalf of the government of the Republic of the Union of Myanmar and on my own behalf. It is my great honor and pleasure for me to have a chance to deliver some words at this very important and auspicious occasion of the first ever Tourism Ministerial Roundtable meeting, which is a small table, during the Jakarta Tourism Expo 2017. It is a very exciting and a joyful moment for me to meet you all in this beautiful city, Tokyo. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to keep faced with the fast-changing needs of visitors and challenges faced by the tourism industry, we are undertaking a structural planning process to map out our strategies, initiatives, and resources allocation for the coming years for tourism development. Our country, Myanmar, is extremely blessed with natural beauties and attraction for tourists, and it stands today as one of the very few countries that still exists as virgin land in this modern world. And I can also count on to say that we are the only country in Southeast Asia that have beautiful sceneries from the sea up to the snow-capped mountain in the north. Please do come and explore. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me brief you a few words about tourism status of Myanmar. Our tourism development is just at a take-off position. Due to the changes of Myanmar's political landscape, Myanmar has been gaining success in various aspects, and tourism is part of them. Moreover, we are developing our tourism in a responsible and sustainable way under the Myanmar Tourism Master Plan. To contribute and advance sustainable development in all pillars such as economic, social, environmental, cultural, and peace, we are establishing tourism to be a powerful, transformative force by doing activities for tourism awareness and exploring community-based tourism, sites for local benefits and poverty reduction, enhancing human capacities and destination management. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Myanmar warmly welcomes tourists from all around the world, and of course also from Japan. We will continue to facilitate smooth and efficient access to the country. The Ministry of Hotels and Tourism, in collaboration and cooperation with related ministries, region and state governments, Myanmar Tourism Federation, is developing Myanmar as a year-round destination with geographically spread product base. In collaboration with JICA, we are currently implementing regional tourism development project in Bagan. I do appreciate and thanks to the Japan government for supporting this project. Hoping to attract more foreign investors, revised Myanmar foreign investment law had been enacted very recently. In conclusion, I would like to once again express my sincere appreciation and profound thanks to all, and I wish this ministerial meeting and related meetings in Jakarta Expo 2017 to contribute a better understanding of the challenges we face and yield practical recommendations. I do hope that your deliberations will lead to step forward to achieve the future goal as the year 2017 has been designated the International Year of Sustainable Tourism for Development. Thank you.
Sir, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you now to join me as we travel from Myanmar all the way to Uzbekistan. And we hear from Mr. Abziz Abdu Kakimov, the chairman of Tourism State Committee of Uzbekistan. Sir.
Thank you, Anita. Dear ministers, ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you, our esteemed colleagues, organizers of this event, UNWTO, head of ministries, and express to all of you my great respect. Wish you productive and successful work during this forum. From ancient times, tourism united the people of our planet. People went on the trip to discover the new lands, the knowledge of the world, and establishment of cultural and diplomatic ties. The Central Asia region played an important role in this process due to its location at the crossroads of caravan trade routes, cultures, and civilizations. The centers of formation and development here of ancient statehood are Samarkand, Bukhara, Khiva, Shahrizabs, the same age as Rome and Babylon. They are widely known as the largest centers of medieval scenes, art, and culture, and included in the UNESCO World Heritage List. Thanks to tourism, we learn what tolerance is. The concept is international. It has no nationality. Tolerance, above all, means respectful attitude to each other, and most importantly, understanding each other. Therefore, I think you will agree with me if I say there is a tolerance where tourism is developed. Taking this opportunity, I would like to dwell the most important factors determining the development and effectiveness of international tourism. There are the problems of ensuring peace and security, political and economical stability in the world as a whole, in certain regions and each country where tourists are welcomed. Growth of incomes of population, its well-being. Development of the tourist infrastructure. The convenience of transport delivery, hotel services, and everything related to tourism logistics. The introduction of modern information technology, all that we meet at every step. Investment directed to tourism infrastructure, including both budgetary investment and creation by state of necessary privileges and preferences for private capital and business. Dear friends, we highly appreciate the developing fruitful relation with the World Tourism Organization and place great hopes on further strengthening of our cooperation, implementing of joint programs and projects. Firstly, we are talking about the significant improvement of the tourist image and increasing the potential of my country, Uzbekistan, in this area, enhancing its attractiveness primarily through the social networks, supporting the wide distribution of the brand, the Great Silk Road. We are always glad to see you in Uzbekistan, so that you can feel our warm hospitality. It gives me great enjoyment to express my sincere gratitude to all who's gathered in this stage, to wish fruitful work, health, prosperity, and new successes in your novel activity. And if you, I speak a little Japanese, and if allow me,
I would love to hear that.
Jata no minasama.
So the representative Jata, especially Chairman Yamaguchi and President Matsuyama, we're very happy to be involved with all of you and everybody who's engaged in tourism. From the bottom of my heart, I am very grateful. In many more areas, I'd like to see our cooperation progress and prosper. Thank you.
I must say, that was extremely impressive. Not just your speech, but the doing it in Japanese. Dare I ask, because I'm sure all of us are wondering, how did you learn such magnificent Japanese?
I studied in Japan for 2 years at Hitotsubashi University. But it was a long time ago, but I still remember some words in Japanese. Thank you.
That's beautiful. I must say, you've taken an excellent export out of Japan by taking the language with you. Ladies and gentlemen, our final speaker for themes 1 and 2, which focuses on social inclusivity, job creation, and on poverty alleviation, is a woman who has a great place in all of our hearts. And she is from the Kingdom of Thailand, and dare I say, she is Thailand's Queen of Tourism. Please, may I now hand the stage to Kun Kobkarn.
Thank you so much. Well, everyone has already answered everything. But I would like to add on that I think what is most important thing about tourism is about the people. The people with heart, the people who believe, the people with passion. Because at the end of the day, I believe that every government believes in tourism. Now the tourism minister start to sit on the front row. And that is the crucial point. When everyone would like to come to touch on tourism and believe that tourism is economic pillars. If we start measure tourism only with figures, tourism will become just a product. I have come from business sector. I remember the red ocean. When you only focus on the percentage and the increment, and at one point, there will be about only profit and cost cutting. So this is a great time when we come and talk about sustainability. And that's why in Thailand, we shift the target from that be the number, but how much we can help more people, which is very important. And we should not lose sight of this. And that is why I said tourism is about the people. But then again, when we talk about the people, I would like to add on that what is more important is the young generation. I believe we here understand what we are doing. But the young generation and the next generation, whether or not they really follow a path. I talked to the village, the successful CBT, community-based tourism. The young generation, they have better education. They go abroad and they return home and they feel that, why do I have to keep on wearing this Hill tribe costume? Can I change? I want to grow with the world. So this is our task. Something that we are trying to tell them that this is your identity. This is our identity. Whether or not they believe in what we are offering or not. This is a challenge, a future challenge, or maybe the challenge that is happening now. So I think we are now going on the right path. But we need to start talking now and embrace the young generation, the future generation, how to make sure that tourism at the end of the day is not only just money making, but is the pride of being themselves. Thank you.
As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting 17 very different definitions of the word sustainable, what it means for tourism, and dare I say that the lovely Honourable Minister of Tourism of Sport of Thailand has a metric that is unique. It's not about arrivals, it's not about revenues, it's not only about job creation and the opportunities that it's creating through capacity building, it's also heartbeats, because she is one of the